Joining us now, great friend, the famous Pete Hegseth, co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend. We are honored to have you here.
Thank you, Larry.
Just one shot. For God's sakes, this man cannot remain in power. I regard it as the only sentence he's uttered in his entire presidency that I liked. Everybody else came down on his head. The rest of his story when in the European trip was all bad. I'm not going to defend any of that crazy, bewildering, confusing, really bad stuff. But on that one note, no, yes, Pete Hegseth?
Well, you're right. He came, he saw, he confused. That is the summary of that trip. I think we all agree with the sentiment of that statement.
Yeah.
Of course we'd like to see Vladimir Putin gone. I also don't want to give him an inch or an excuse at all to rationalize what he's doing. It's already been used in Russian propaganda. Russian propaganda already says that it's the Americans he's really fighting in Ukraine, not the Ukrainian. He doesn't even believe that's a country. So, no, I'm usually not part of the pile-on, but in this case... No. Oh, Larry, it's terrible. Because it was also an indication of his true feelings. You know, they put him in front of a prompter for a reason. They were trying to put a bow on a trip that had been a disaster. And then he took the last sentence and created a whole bunch of confusion and uncertainty that's unhelpful if you want this war to end and you want Zelensky's regime to survive. I don't know.
Thank you, Andy Blinken. I appreciate that very much. All I'll say is this, okay? I'm glad he took a shot at Putin. I mean, the rest of that trip was really, I think, a disaster and a great sign of American weakness. But to this point, I didn't ask this of Senator Portman. Perhaps I should have, but if you're in Moscow, I'm going to argue there's a lot more dissent to what Putin is and is doing. And so maybe some people will look at that and go, no matter what the Americans say, they want to see him out. Let's get going on this.
Maybe.
Think about it.
But then
just possible.
But then it's potentially also the worst of both worlds. So if he's going to say it, then by your rationale, own it. Don't say it and then immediately issue a statement before you get on the phone. I wouldn't have backed off. But I'm saying they did back off. So they had the rhetorical flourish and then the back off. And even today, he's backed off it yet again. So whatever intended punch it was supposed to have.
I mean, Reagan used to say stuff like that all the time.
But he meant it and he stood by it and he took the criticism. And in this case, he's not saying
no, and some of Reagan's, shall we say, more liberal senior staff people would whisper to the press they really didn't mean it, but then Reagan would come back.
And how many times did he have to tear down the wall back into his speech after speechwriters and advisors took it out? I don't know.
According to Peter Robinson, 7 or 8 times. All right, let us move on. Are there peace talks going on? Is the U.S. forcing, quote unquote, pushing Zelensky to peace talks? And would we see in peace talks a divided split? It's North Korea, South Korea, but in this case, I guess would be East Ukraine, West Ukraine.
I know General Keene's reporting that, and if anybody would know, it's him, that the U.S. government is potentially pressuring Zelensky to come to the table. There are talks happening right now. Zelensky's calling for high-level talks, which Putin so far is rejecting. The question is, on both sides, are you coming to the table from a position of strength or a position of weakness? And increasingly, it looks like Zelensky's coming from a stronger and stronger position as Putin has, in some cases, been counterattacked and actually lost ground. But I think the Korea reference is the right one. I mean, that war's still not technically over. And Vladimir Putin tried the Thunder Run. It didn't work. What he has done in Donbass for 8 years and other places is let a slow burn of black ops troops do their work and push out other resistance. You could see that in the territory that he controls. Turn the temperature down, maybe stop some of the bombing throughout the remainder of the country, and just consolidate slowly what he already has and try to sell that as a win domestically. He can't go home with a loss. If you're a Russian leader and you lose a foreign war, you're done.
Well, good. Somebody take him out, finally.
Maybe.
As long as he's in charge, if they have one troop in Ukraine, they will try to take over the country. This is my issue with Putin in general. In other words, it may not be politic to say regime change, but as long as he's around, now maybe the next 5 guys would be the same way, although I'm not so sure. As long as he's around, he's going to try to take Ukraine and Lord knows Belarus, Lord knows Poland, Lord knows the Baltic.
Well, he's already got Belarus.
Not exactly.
Well, it's a client state.
More or less.
More or less. You know, the excuse that he can't have NATO on his border, I don't buy it because he already has NATO on his border in Latvia and Estonia and the northern part, former Soviet republics. So I actually don't think his ambitions are beyond Ukraine. I think I've called this the "give me my stuff back" war. This is Ukraine was historically part of Russia from his point of view, and there's some merit to that argument, not in the modern times, but in ancient times, and that's how far back he looks. He wants it back. And so I don't buy the argument that it's going to widen, but I still think we should weaken them by supporting the Ukrainian resistance, which we've done so far, without escalating to something.
Give them everything they want. Give Zelensky everything he wants. Last one. You mentioned this, Mr. off-air, but I want to raise it. American vets, patriots, are fighting in Ukraine for Zelensky.
It was more widely reported at the beginning. The Ukrainian army, the Ukrainian Foreign Legion has welcomed U.S. combat vets who bring their vests and bring their equipment and head to Ukraine. And I personally know of many of them. And the reports are they're in the thousands.
Wow.
Vets, again, I can't confirm the exact number, but vets, Brits, Australians, a lot of Canadians, more Canadians than you would imagine, probably because there's so many caveats on what they can do when they fight wars. Their war fighters are going to fight a war where they can actually fight wars.
Really fight a war.
Thousands of them in the Foreign Legion fighting alongside Ukrainians. You add that kind of combat expertise to the training we've already done for Ukrainians. What's been underreported is how much our special operations community and others have trained the Ukrainians for years and years and years, to the point where they've got a lot more capabilities than Putin thought.
So we can go after Putin and his Russian army doesn't want to fight anyway. In fact, Putin has stolen so much money, and Putin's generals have stolen so much money from their military budgets and their energy budgets. You see these stories, these kids fighting in this I call it the Red Army. I know it's not, but I still think it is. They're selling gasoline to survive. That's how bad it is.
And it's the oligarchs in many cases who pocketed money that was supposed to go to Putin's now less than capable war machine.
Of course.
And you're right, you've got peasants from Siberia who don't even know what country they're in, can't reach out to the outside world, and they don't have gas and food.
Patriotic American vets, I love that.
It's pretty cool.
Pete Hegseth, everybody. You can catch Pete on Fox & Friends weekends every Saturday and Sunday from 6 to 10 a.m. on Fox News Channel. Thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Larry.
Much obliged.